So welcome everyone. Happy to be with you guys today. I'm Jared Johnson with DayTraders FX. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what we see happening in this kind of crazy, potentially bananas market that is coming up, right? So we have a couple of things I want to talk about. For the currency traders out there, we have some great setups to be looking for. For the stock traders out there, we have some great setups we're going to be looking for. We got a little bit of everything today. I want to look at a few setups in the currency market. I want to look at a few setups in the stock market, and then talk about how we're hopefully going to see these things play out as the week unfolds. The election, of course, is tomorrow. Everyone is expecting the market to crash and the world to fall apart. That alone is probably the number one reason that it will not. How many people were expecting a total crash and panic in the coronavirus market? If you were probably called a doomsdayist and a crazy person, and then you turned out to be right. Good job. If you weren't expecting it, yours truly present here, then you're like most of the rest of us. And that's when the market loves to do those kinds of crazy things. I'm with you, Jim. I wasn't expecting it either. So if we're all expecting the market to crash and tank with the election, guess what's going to happen? Probably not that, but it might. It could, and it might, and that's all a real possibility. Hold on here one second. So those are all real possibilities, and we want to explore and discuss all of this, right? These are all things that could happen, and we want to see where the trading opportunities are. We got to see where they are and what we can do with all of that. So, okay, John, there you go. So I actually read. We're not going to talk about political preference clearly here, because we would offend 100% of everybody in here. But I read an interesting study. I love when we say we're not doing something, except I'm going to do it real quick. But no, this has nothing to do with political or anything. I read an interesting study today. Bank of America actually did some research going back, I think, 40 years. So, they looked at how the stock market behaved in the last 40 years. It's not a ton of data. I think it was 40 or 50 years. It's not a ton of data, but it's a little bit. And there was something interesting, right? They found out that, number one, the stock market did better in the first term of every president that had two terms, right? Stock market did better in the first term than the second term, right? I think there's always a lot of hope and optimism of what a president's going to do. And by the second term, they're like, yeah, whatever. We don't, whatever. So stock market does better in the first term than the second term. The stock market does better in a change of political parties, right? Whether it goes Democrat to Republican or Republican to Democrat, the stock market performs well in a change of either one. It has no preference to which is which, just in a change of that, the stock market tends to perform well. The stock market also performs well with a single term president situation, right? So that's another thing. So it was kind of funny. It was this Bank of America study that showed that pretty much in most of the regular circumstances, the stock market performs pretty well. So that's not where I'm basing my whole, I think things are not going to be as bad as everybody thinks they're going to be. I'm basing that on the fact that everyone thinks things are going to be terrible, and then they're probably not going to be. So if they're not, we have some good things to look at. If they are terrible, we have some good things to look at. Either way, it's pretty easy to look at the charts and see that the stock market's been pretty sideways. We see that the currency market's been pretty sideways the last couple of months, right? There's kind of a bit of anticipation, a bit of what's going to happen, where are things going to go kind of a thing, right? And so that's kind of where we are right now. So let's have a look at the charts. Let's see what we can get figured out here. One last sip out of the lucky orange cup, and then we'll get right to it. Anybody a big fan of water here? I'm a big fan of water. I was told, the doctor told me, he said, you got to drink more water. And I thought, I don't remember turning 100 years old. Why is the doctor telling me I need to drink more water? But he's a kidney doctor, so whatever. I won't argue with him. But I guess more water is good. Funny thing is, when you start focusing on drinking more water, at least this has been my experience, the more water I drink, the more I realize, wow, I probably was pretty dehydrated. So it's pretty good to drink. I guess, a lot of water. So Felipe, good water drinker. Good to see you, Ray. Nice to see you, my man. Lenny, aquaholic. I love it. I love it. Oh, Jennifer, okay. Drink 2 cups of water every morning when you wake up. I like that. I like that. 2 gallons per day. Nice job. Good. Yeah, you can't get too much water. That's a good thing. I don't know. Maybe you can't get too much water, but anyway, I'm going for it. All right, let's have a look at the screen and just see what we have. See what we got going on here. We'll talk about everything. Okay, I'm probably gonna let's see. Let's dive into the currency market first, and then we'll go into stocks second. But one thing that we want to keep an eye on is this little situation right here. This is the SPY, right? Now remember, guys, I'm a stock trader, I'm an option trader, I'm a forex trader. I trade it all because currencies and the general stock market complement each other so much, right? When the stock market is just steadily going up, like this kind of stuff right here that we've had for a couple of months and then a few months of sidewaysness. But when we look over here, you know, and we look at the kind of the stock market in general, this is beginning of 2019. You know, we had that big sell-off end of 2018. And then we had 2019 to 2020 that was just like this, you know, crazy good year, right? S&P is up from the lows of you know, December 24th to the highs of, you know, February 20th or whatever. And that represents a nice little move of about 45%, right? Stock market is up 45%. What a great little move. Okay, everything's good there. This was actually a little bit, we had plenty of good trades on the currency side of things. We actually made, you know, some really good money in 2019 in currencies, but it felt kind of boring, to be honest. It felt a little bit boring. I was like, okay, the stock market's running, you know, we're trading, you know, I've always traded stocks and so on. I haven't done it so much in the group. I didn't do it so much in the group in 2019. We talked a lot about certain stock market indicators, but we focused more on the currencies. And then this year we've been trading more stock and options in the group, and it's been working out really well. But, you know, when this kind of movement's happening, it's kind of easy to trade the stock market, no problem, everything's okay. It's a little bit boring to trade the currency market, but there's plenty of good trades. We made thousands of pips in 2019. Everything was good there. But when we get this kind of stuff, right, nobody was super happy that was in the stock market with this whole little deal right here. I actually had a put up here, and I made a little bit of money buying a put and trading this down just a little bit. I think I traded it down for about 3 days, and I thought, wow, I'm the smartest man in the world. I made a bunch of money. And then it continued down the other 80% of the movement. But nobody was happy about that. Currencies, a lot of good opportunities, and then this big pullback in the currencies, a lot of good opportunities. And the stock market, you know, has kind of been up and down and sideways and everything, but currencies and stocks together can do so much. When the market is super volatile, currencies are the best, right? I don't love trading stocks in a super volatile environment, and I certainly don't like trading options in a super volatile environment because option spreads get real expensive. Currencies are the best in volatility. When things are real steady and just kind of moving along okay, stocks are pretty easy to trade, right? We can do some real easy option trades and just make some good, consistent, steady profits. And we can also do some currency trades in those situations, but currencies really thrive in volatility. And that's why I want to do this webinar, because I want to talk about some of the stock opportunities that we have, but we've also got some amazing currency opportunities. So I want to kind of discuss both those opportunities there. There you go, Lee. Best potable water. Oh, yes. Yep. Right in Yellowstone. I love it. I love it. Okay, so here's what we're going to kind of look at a couple of different things here. First and foremost, the S&P has been real sideways, right? And I draw this box in here just to kind of, you know, show that, you know, we kind of started hitting that resistance back there in June. And it kind of broke into this channel in about early July. And the stock market hasn't done anything super exciting in general since about July, right? So we've kind of had this sideways movement. Everything's in anticipation and waiting for a move. I think if we start to get breaks of, you know, 320 in the SPY, 32, you know, and change in the SPX, right? If you're looking at that, then I think we've got you know, some good opportunities there. 32.20 here, 320 in SPY. we could open up to, you know, a bigger move down in the overall stock market, right? If we feel like there's a lot of uncertainty, and I feel like the situation something like this could happen is if there's a pretty big contested election, which I would say at this point there's probably a 100% chance that that's going to happen. So we're probably going to have a pretty contested election. If for some reason these two political parties could say, all right, whoever wins, wins, whoever loses, loses, let's call it good, then I think the stock market would probably go up. The stock market is trying to price in a change in probably political situations, B, an unsettled election, right? And so if that turns out to be the case, I think we're headed down a bit in the stock market. I'm not looking for a big crash. I'm not looking for the end of the world, but I think the stock market's probably going to dip a bit. And we're going to look at some other stock charts where that's happening, but that's probably a pretty real situation. If, on the other hand, you know, it's a clean election and the parties accept whatever is going to happen, then I think the stock market's going to go up, and I think things are going to stay pretty calm. Yes, Sharon. Honestly, a landslide election would be the best thing ever. Something that was just irrefutable, right? Like one candidate gets 99% of the electoral votes and the popular votes and everything, right? It's just so off the charts. That would be good for the stock market. The chances of that happening, it's possible. It's certainly possible, and it would be kind of our best case scenario in the stock market. But what we're here to talk about is if that doesn't happen, which probably it won't. Again, I'd love for it to happen that way. Then where are we going to find our trading opportunities, right? So let's look at a couple of currency pairs. I want to look at probably 4 currency pairs that I think are going to give us some good trading opportunities. And then we're going to look at 4 or 5 stocks that I think will give us some really good trading opportunities. So for those that are kind of more in the stock side of things and less in the currency side of things, let's jump in to the details. This is the Australian dollar versus the Japanese yen. This is a great currency pair because the Japanese yen, for anybody that was unfamiliar or unaware of the connection here, the Japanese yen is something that will strengthen when the US stock market goes down. So if we see stocks going down, the Japanese yen will strengthen. On this chart right here, Japanese yen strength is a move down, right? Now, it doesn't have to be a massive, huge, crazy move down, but it's a move down. So if the stock market takes a dip, then the Australian dollar versus the Japanese yen will go down. The Australian dollar plays the role of a super risk-related currency, right? So if the stock market's doing well, the Australian dollar is typically strengthening, right? And we've seen, if you look at these two charts, tell me how much of a difference you can really tell here from big coronavirus sell-off, big pullback, right? That's Aussie yen. Look at the SPY. Big corona sell-off, big pullback. It's like the same chart here. So this is going to create a really fantastic opportunity for us, probably either way. I think there's going to be opportunities either way here, but what I'm looking at is, again, probably a contested election, which means that we're probably going to see quite a good movement down. So Australian dollar weakness, Japanese yen strength. So if the stock market is getting beat up, that turns everything kind of risk off. And when things are risk off that way and the market's going down, the Australian dollar weakens and the Japanese yen strengthens. Because the Japanese yen, the US dollar, the Swiss franc sometimes play the role of safe haven currencies, right? When there's fear going on out there, everyone's buying, they're flooding into dollars, Japanese yen, and Swiss franc, right? Those are kind of the stable situations. The dollar, who knows if it's going to stay a stable situation? It may not. It may not be a safe haven currency anymore, but it has been in the past, and it probably will remain that for at least a little while longer, until Planet of the Apes takes us over, whatever happens, right? The aliens invade or whatever. So that being the case, the Japanese yen is very, very safe, and it's very stable, and everything is really stable and good there. And so we're going to be watching that and looking for that to make a move. And Ken, nice to see you, Ken. Good to have you with us. And you're right. We have an interest rate announcement. I think, is that today? We have interest rate announcements, yeah, in a couple of hours, about 3 or 4 hours for Australia. So that'll move things around a little bit, but I wouldn't expect anything lasting from that. I think this is going to be hugely predicated on what happens tomorrow. So that's going to be a big deal with the election. So as I look at this chart, one thing that currencies love to do is just obey long-term patterns, right? Long-term patterns, long-term trends. And what we have on the Japanese yen here is a rounded top. Some of you might say, oh, maybe it's a rounded top, maybe it's a head and shoulders pattern. Either way, they're both very bearish, right? If we call this a head and shoulders pattern, which we very well could, those are bearish movements, right? And so this is a head and shoulders pattern. This is a bearish pattern either way. It's a rounded top, so we've got this, nice rounded pattern kind of running into place here. And we're breaking trend lines. We're taking out lows, and that's important. So we took out this low right over here, and we're headed into this guy right here that we haven't quite reached yet. On the currency side of things, currencies love to go the direction of big targets. I have a couple of targets circled right here. These are pivot points, monthly and weekly pivot points. We have a nice little cluster of those guys right there. A couple of weekly pivot points and a monthly pivot point. So we have 300 to 400 pips of movement down on the Aussie yen that very well could happen. This looks like the most likely setup that I could imagine. And again, it seems like the most unlikely scenario that we're going to have a smooth election. So if the election doesn't go smooth and we have a really likely setup that looks like a real risk-off movement here, that's about as much as I need to say, yep, we're going to trade the heck out of this. So the Aussie yen looks fantastic from kind of this 7,400 area down to about this 70 area. So again, about 400 pips of movement that looks, basically like this, runs up and runs down into kind of this shaded area right there. So I think that's kind of what we're looking for on that. If on the other hand, we see things just go swimmingly, right? They just go so smooth and so wonderful. Yes, there are opportunities to trade this higher, because what I'm basically looking for right now is we have this huge bullish head and shoulders pattern, right? And this is the bigger picture that I think is going to happen. But I'm looking for this right shoulder, as you can see right here, right? I'm looking for that right shoulder to play out so this thing can take a big move up. And so there's hundreds of pips down to kind of complete that right shoulder and really make a good clean pattern here. And then from this 70 level, we trade this thing up 1,000 pips and we just kill it. We just kill it. So that's kind of the big picture that I see happening. But I think in the short term, kind of this week, we have more of a pullback and a sell-off while the markets panic for a couple of days, right? Maybe a couple of weeks, maybe who knows how long it is. But I think at least it's safe to say a couple of days we get some of that sell-off. So Australian dollar versus the Japanese yen is numero uno. Sell-off of about 400 pips, ultimately looking to buy that dip for 1,000 pip rally. Because I think ultimately the stock market's going to be fine. It's going to shift. Things are going to, right now there's been really low interest rates, corporate tax is low, all these kinds of things. So I think the stock market is really focused on growth. If we get a change in leadership, taxes may go up a little bit, so that might slow certain things down. But I think the market will pivot, because it always does, and we'll find another way for things to head higher. So I'm not really worried about, is the stock market going to have this massive sell-off for the next couple of years. I love, those that have been with me for a long time know that I despise all things news related, like 100%. And I think that every news bit in here is unadulterated garbage, and it's because they want people to be, okay, how do I get out of this thing? What? Get me out of here. Yeah, okay, looks really great. Anyway, okay, never mind. I can't get to this right now. But the article, this is what's his name? Jim Rogers, I think, and he's the co-founder of George Soros's quantum fund that was so successful, and they've been riding on the coattails of that for 100 years. And he says, "I'm so glad I'm old, because young people are really in for it." And I thought, you know what? I'm glad you're old too, because we don't need people like that around that are pure doom and gloom. So hopefully he goes to the big chart in the sky and can kind of let us, be somewhat optimistic about the opportunities we have on this planet in the future. So don't listen to the financial news. Don't listen to any of that stuff when it comes to this. Just watch the charts. Just watch the charts and try not to get caught up in the doom and gloom that everybody will be promoting to death this week, because it's just garbage. Okay, so Aussie yen, great opportunity. We have the Australian dollar versus the US dollar. So same kind of situation. If the stock market starts to panic, if there's a lot of volatility, if we see the VIX, right? Remember this guy right here? We see the VIX that's already up. If it breaks above this orange area here, and that's about 40, that's kind of the mid 40s, right? 43, 44, then, we might see a wild run higher. And I'm going to talk more about this in a moment, but I don't think we're going to see anything too crazy, but it might hop up there a little bit. We might see this run into the mid 50s. I'm going to revise my arrow just a little bit. There's some nice targets up there, but we might see the VIX run up a little bit. If that happens, then this currency pair is going to be amazing, right? Once again, great lower targets all down through here. Rounded top, right? These are patterns that just play out again and again and again in the market. So big rounded top, big neckline. We're sitting here with the Australian dollar at this 70 level. If this breaks below 70, I would say that we have about 500 pips of movement down. Now, for those that are not currency fluent at this point, a 500 pip movement, if you have a really, really small trade size, could be $500. If you have a little bit of a bigger trade size, it could be $1,000. A little bit bigger, it could easily be $5,000. There's a good trade to be made right here. And so with that nice rounded top and that beautiful neckline right there, and again, the same kind of situation, right? Kind of an inverse head and shoulders pattern. We're looking for this thing to run down and kind of create that right shoulder down here before continuing higher. I think all of these are going to go higher over the next several weeks or maybe month or two, but over the next several days or a week or two, I think things are going to head lower. And this is going to be our confirming level, is that 70 level. 70 level is what's going to drive this lower. So Australian dollar, Australian yen, looking for a sell-off, looking for a 300 to 500 pip move down, probably, give or take. These are going to be real easy trades to make and jump into and run with. So just let's go for it. Of course, in my trading group, we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be trading all this. We're going to be live for like 24 hours tomorrow, just trading whatever reactions we're seeing in the market and see if we can grab some of these big movements. So it should be really fun. Or we might want to pull our hair out. I don't know. So Australian dollar and Aussie yen, two big ones. Another big one, speaking, again, if we get that whole contested election situation, I'm looking for big time Australian weakness. Now, again, I love all of our Aussie people, and Australia seems like a great, fantastic country. So it's nothing against the Australian dollar, but the Australian dollar has been super strong the last, basically most of this year. And so I think it's time for it to take a little bit of a break. So another big trade I'm going to be looking for is the British pound versus the Australian dollar. Now, for again, those that aren't super familiar on the currency side of things, the order that everything is in matters a lot. So in this chart, the order is Australian dollar second, British pound first. And so a move up would also represent Australian dollar weakness. And I think that's going to happen. Can everyone see those charts? Do those, I mean, those just look so beautiful to me, and they look so big and so obvious. Have you guys ever watched these kinds of things happen? I'm going to show you some very similar examples in stocks as well. But I mean, are you guys seeing these patterns that I'm talking about here and that I'm showing? Are they making sense? How does everybody, how's it coming across for everybody, I guess is the question. So far, so good. Medium, extra medium. Good. All right. Cool, Lenny. Cool, Ray. Good to see you both. Okay, very good. Very good. All right, you guys. So these are, hey, Daniel, nice to see you. Dorothy, good to see you. Excellent, guys. Okay, so these are the things that we want to be looking for. Will the British pound versus the Australian dollar make a massive move? I think so. I think so. Ken, that's a good question. You said, will the euro be stronger than the pound? I think the euro and the pound are kind of in the same boat right now. They're not really big drivers of direction. They're more counterparts to other currency pairs, meaning I think Australian dollar, Japanese yen, US dollar, that kind of stuff is going to be the big driver. I think British pound and euro will just be along for the ride. So I think probably they won't. I don't know if one's going to be particularly stronger than the other. I would say they'll probably be fairly similar, and it's really going to be more about the other currency that gets it moving. So yeah, good question, Ken. So what do we have going on here? We break this neckline, and I'm looking for basically a 1,000 pip move up. Again, if you're in this for $1 a pip, that's $1,000 bucks, and that's a pretty small account to be in $1 a pip. If you're in $10 a pip, that's $10,000. There's a big move that is coming here, and it may happen with the election. It may happen shortly after the election. It may happen next week. It may happen next month. This is what we should be watching. Rounded bottoming out pattern, perfect little setup here. If we go back further, we can see, a triple bottom over here. We can see another kind of triple bottom running through there. The pound versus the Australian dollar is absolutely sick and tired of going down, and it's ready to go up, and the charts have been screaming it to us. So what do we got to do? Be ready for the movement, jump on, and be ready to just attack this massive swing. It's probably going to be quick, and it's probably going to be huge. So again, depending on kind of how the news goes, it's always a little tricky trading these types of election situations. So just be careful, But there's going to be some really good opportunities here. So we've talked about the Australian dollar, the Aussie yen, and the pound Aussie. These are all great setups, great opportunities. I'll talk about one last one here, and then we'll move over to some stocks. So here we have the same thing, right? The Euro Aussie has had probably the largest bottoming out pattern I have ever seen ever, right? It started in about April and has just been rounding off and working its way back up. And here we are testing that rounded bottom pattern right here, right now. I think this one, again, probably has a 1,000 pip run coming up. So if we see this Australian dollar weakness that we've been looking for, we're going to see these four currency pairs move like crazy. Again, massive rounded bottoming out pattern. And we have this kind of stuff happening here. Let me just move some of that there. And so now you can see, necklines just kind of continue to come into place. We had a big neckline right there, and then it's kind of expanded here. So I'm kind of looking at anything kind of in the 168.00 area is probably where this thing is going to start moving. We get above 168.00 on the Euro Aussie, and our next real legitimate target is going to be about 175. So that's about 700 pips, give or take, of movement. Again, that could happen in a heartbeat. So I think that's going to be a really great opportunity. Necklines and rounded bottoms are the thing we want to look for, or rounded tops. So neckline, this is our neckline right here once again. And this is in this case, it's a rounded bottom. In the case of the Australian dollar versus the US dollar and the Japanese yen, those are rounded tops. We're looking for breaks of necklines and just looking for these things to run and run and run and run. I think we have a really great opportunity for that to happen. So those are going to be, I would say, some of the biggest ones I'm going to be looking for. There are others. I don't want to, go through every single currency pair, but for all those currency traders out there, hold on here. Aussie dollar, Aussie yen. Look for weakness, right? That's where we're going to be looking for a big move down. Weakness / move down. what's going on with this thing. So that is, that's what I think we're going to have happen there. And then, of course, we have, okay, I'm calling TradingView. They're getting a complaint from me. Same thing. So strength, there we go. So that's a move up, right? So these are going to be some big main focuses that we're going to be watching for over the next several days. These are going to be some fantastic opportunities. And, you know, honestly, between Pound Aussie and Euro Aussie, there's probably 2,000 pips of movement. And between Aussie dollar and Aussie yen, there's probably 1,000 pips worth of movement. So, you know, here are 3,000 potential pips worth of movement. If you have $1 a pip on everything and they even do part of what I'm thinking they'll do, you should make a couple of $1,000 on these moves. So these are going to be big. These are going to be huge. These are going to be great. Let's be on board for these guys and be ready to trade them. Okay. Let's move over to a couple of opportunities that are happening on some stocks, and we'll peek at those and just see where things might be headed there. Does anybody have any questions? What do you guys think about that? Questions, thoughts, comments before we move over? Everything seeming good, looking good? All right. Any questions, comments? Let me know. I'll be all ears. But this is going to be my my big focus for the next little bit. There's a copy of my chart for anybody that wants it. Jim, yes, and New Zealand yen is definitely, you know, that one's going to be a great move as well. So we talked about New Zealand yen this morning in the live trade group, and I think that this is such a great setup as well. So New Zealand yen, you know, if I had to trade Australian dollar, or sorry, Aussie yen or New Zealand yen, I'd probably go with the Aussie yen just because I think it's a little more liquid and tends to move a little bit more, but New Zealand yen is going to be just glorious. So New Zealand yen, same thing. Looking for a couple of 100 pip move down before a much bigger, longer move higher. So I think that's going to be good. Amy, Aussie CAD. Yeah, Aussie CAD's the same kind of deal. You know, it's the same kind of deal. It's making a little bit of a move for us now. Rounded top. It's already broken the neckline. Now we have this kind of additional neckline that we're watching for here. And Aussie CAD, same thing. I think that this is going to do the same as all the rest of the Aussie pairs, which is run towards Aussie weakness for a while, because again, we have kind of a similar situation here, right? We're kind of working on this big, crazy looking inverse head and shoulders pattern. But right now we have this rounded top and this support that if it breaks and gives way, this 92.50 area, I'm looking for a run down into the, you know, mid to upper 80s, right? 86, 87, 88 should be a good spot to go for. Whoops, hold on here. Let me move that just a hair. Okay, Fiona, do you find your entry on the daily chart? I do all my analysis on long-term charts, right? Daily, weekly charts is where I do all my analysis and all my kind of trade ideas, and then I usually execute them on smaller time frames, like a 1 hour chart or even lower. But I'm looking for the big picture on that longer term time frame. I'm just taking execution typically on a shorter term chart. Yep, good question. Okay, guys, let's look at my top 3 or 4 favorite stocks that I think are going to make a move for us here. So here are stocks where I have positions, right? Some I have positions on, some I've had positions, and I plan on putting more positions on. Who's familiar with this little guy right here? Southwest Airlines. Anybody ever fly on Southwest Airlines? I love this one. And what is it giving us? Lenny, always. Southwest is great because, you know, Southwest Airlines is one of the few airlines that got the memo that you're not supposed to be a jerk to customers. Nobody else really apparently heard that. You know, United Airlines will punch you in the face and pull you off the airplane. But Southwest is great. They're a good time. I was on a Southwest flight not super long ago, and they were saying all kinds of jokes and everything. It almost made me uncomfortable, but I loved it. So it was great. Yeah, John, there you go. You did one time. It was a good time. Oh, there you go, Jim. Flying Southwest Tomorrow. Good. Safe travels. Hopefully you have a good, safe, easy, fun flight. Good for you. But I love Southwest Airlines is a great one. This is a great stock. What has been happening, right? Nobody's traveling because everyone's worried about getting coronavirus. And so there are travels going on, but it's not so good. In fact, I just read that the airlines are kind of, when one big airline does something, everyone else kind of has to do it as well. And one of the things they did was drop the change fees. No more change fees. You can change your ticket for free. And now a lot of airlines are moving to buy one, get one free. Sounds good to me. Wish I had somewhere to go. So they're just trying to get the traffic going. And that's true. That's true. Southwest never had a change fee. Another reason they're awesome. And so that's one thing that's kind of happening. These airlines are trying to get a little bit of traction. They've recovered the least out of most of the stocks because people aren't traveling. They can't. They're restricted from traveling, or there's nowhere to go, or whatever the case is. And so I think airlines stand to benefit the most out of anything that's coming, right? Out of anything that's coming, people are going to say, okay, whoever is in office, now we can move on with really getting serious with a coronavirus vaccine. And so that's going to do wonders for these retail type stocks, right? These consumer cyclical kind of stocks like airlines and shopping outlets and that kind of stuff. Those should do really, really good once, coronavirus stuff seems a little more under control, once vaccines are announced and proven and working and all that stuff. That's where these guys stand to benefit. I don't know that there is too much more bad news for the airlines and for the retail stocks. I don't know what other bad news there can be. I mean, I guess things can go into a more intense lockdown, but whatever. Is anybody really doing anything anyway that's going to really hurt, so many more businesses? I mean, maybe the small businesses, but some of these big stock businesses are probably just going to kind of continue doing what they're doing. If there's more bad news, there will be some dips here and there, but pretty much any kind of good news is going to be followed up with some big rallies. I feel pretty confident on that side of things. So I'm watching these airlines and I'm watching Southwest. And what I love to see is, as we just talked about on 4 currency pairs, rounded pattern neckline. Southwest has not been able to get above about 42.50. That's the key level. 42.50 is the end all be all here. And so if Southwest gets above that, they're trading, it's trading in the mid 38s right now. We start getting above 42.50, and I think there's big moves higher in the works, right? I think that's where we start retaking some of those previous pre-corona sell-off highs of high 50s, low 60s. So Southwest Airlines is big time on my list. I think that there's going to be a great opportunity for stock trades, for option trades, for everything, and we'll be doing it in the group. So plan on that. So Southwest Airlines is one. I'm pretty excited about that. I actually like Delta as well. I think Delta is a pretty good looking chart here. And what I could see happening on a chart like Delta, it's very similar to Southwest. Remember these kinds of things right here, which is a pattern and then our moving averages, right? We're getting a lot of consolidation in a shorter term 50 moving average, but we still are kind of under pressure from long-term movement, right? So Delta had this big sell-off and a big pullback and then a lot of consolidation, still below the 200-day moving average, which is which is still bearish, right? So for Delta to really make any kind of massive recovering move, what we're going to want to see happen here is a break above this pattern, right? This is a nice solid little wedging pattern here, and if we break out of this, we start getting above kind of the mid 30s, 34, 35. I think it's going to be go time for Delta to make a big run. Of course, if we get a bunch of bad information a bunch of bad news and something looks really terrible, Delta could make another dip down into the 20s, the low 20s or even 20, at which time I would find out which kidney is less bad and sell that one and buy stock, right? So I would be looking for that big purchase on that dip. I know Warren Buffett sold his airline stock, and smart to do it where he did it, but I think that airlines have really, really good opportunities. So either we get Delta back up above the mid 30s, or we see Delta break and get into the mid 20s, and then we just start buying it and start going for it. We put some option trades on, and we we own some stock, we write some covered calls, we do whatever we want to do. We'll have plenty of strategies there, but Delta is going to be a real good one down in those lows. So I'm super looking forward to that one. So Delta and Southwest, I think, are going to be really good opportunities moving forward. I also like, and I know, again, and I have a position on this one right here as well, I like the banking stocks. I think banking stocks are still very, very good opportunities for us to be trading. And so, we have Bank of America that tends to just bounce around here. We have a stock that we have a covered call in the group right now running on Bank of America, and it's looking good. It's looking good. We sold the 24.50 call option, and our break even's just below that, and this should be a really nice, really good little trade. But it gets even better and even more appealing once we, again, get into the mid to upper 20s, right? Right now, we're kind of in the mid to lower 20s. We start getting kind of above in that upper mid, upper 20s area. And I think Bank of America is ready to make its run as well. I'm looking for Bank of America to hopefully get, bare minimum. Let's get this thing up into the, $26-ish range. And then we should have a pretty unobstructed run to about 30 bucks. So that should be a nice little run there. Again, I'm not looking to hit this thing out of the park. I just want to get a good move out of Bank of America, and I think we can do it this way. We're already in it, and hopefully the stock doesn't get called away. I'd love to hold on to this stock and hang in there and just continue riding it higher. So Bank of America is a good one, and I always tend to trade this one. For those of you that bank at Bank of America, I'm in your same boat because I bank at Wells Fargo. I like that people steal my information and use it for their benefits. Hopefully I'll get some sort of refund on whatever thing they stole from me. But some of these big banks are terribly run, but their stock seems to do well, right? Wells Fargo, not so well because they've been just murdered with lawsuits over the last several years. They're trying to clean it up. Bank of America's kept it pretty clean. And so I think that they'll be one of the best to represent a good solid recovery. We have things like Citibank, and they've taken a big dip, and I'm not ready to jump in on Citi yet. I'm looking more for maybe a double bottom in Citi. Let's get them into maybe the mid 30s before starting to buy into that. And US Bank is looking a little more kind of Bank of America-y. I like this one. So US Bank's also a great opportunity. You can see a very similar kind of chart, but really what I want to kind of stress here is these banking stocks. I think have some really good opportunity for us very soon. So again, we start getting things like US Bank above about 40 bucks, and I think we have a pretty unobstructed run to about $50. So I think that's going to be a great little stock to kind of just get this run and this movement up there going. So I think that's what we've got going on. If, on the other hand, we have a lot of mixed signals coming into the market and everything goes ugly, and we get US Bank down in the 30 or sub $30 mark, what am I going to be doing? Buying the heck out of it. So I'm just going to buy a bunch of US Bank down there. So looking at the banks, I like the banks. Bank of America, US Bank, Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines. Don't forget, guys, don't forget things like retail, right? So when we're talking about, coronavirus stuff starting to get resolved a little bit, which probably it's not right now, but as we get past this election and people are a little less concerned about this coronavirus business, retail should skyrocket, right? And what I'm looking for right now is a nice run on a lot of these retail stocks. Kohl's, KSS, this is a big one. These guys, as you can see, I mean, it's pretty rare to find a chart that's been doing, that for so long, right? Kohl's hasn't done anything since about June. It's been bouncing around about $20 to $23, $24, right around there. But we start getting Kohl's above $24. And again, I think we have a pretty unobstructed run into the high 30s, low 40s. That's going to be a big move and a big runner for us. And I think this is going to be a really good one. What do we do if Kohl's breaks this low right here? We're not going to try to do anything right now. So all of these stocks that I'm talking about, we're letting them break out, right? We've got to let them get above these levels and really open the door to the momentum, and then we can start going with that trend trade, right? But if Kohl's makes a break for us down and we see Kohl's down at the, $10, $12, $13 mark, what do? Buy the heck out of it because we're looking for that kind of movement. So I don't know how much more bad news the retail stocks can get unless whatever political party takes form and shape and says, guess what? We're not opening up America till 2022. Then the retail stocks are going to be that's going to be hit. But what I think is going to happen is that's going to be a big hot ticket item for these political parties. Whoever ends up taking office, there's so much pressure to get these, get the economy going again and get things cranking. That even if things are slowed and there's more delays, that's bad news that these stocks have kind of priced in already. What we're looking for is any kind of good news, right? The virus, the vaccine is working well and it's ready for the general public, and these stocks are going to go straight to the moon. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. So that's just a couple of stocks that I want to be watching. So just to kind of recap, I'm looking at Aussie yen, Aussie dollar to go down, pound Aussie, euro Aussie up. And then I'm looking for things like Bank of America, USB, KSS, Delta, Southwest, up. So I'm going to be looking for big moves higher on these kinds of stock. There's a lot of other retail stocks that I like, but I don't want to go on forever and ever and ever. But I think these are going to be some really, really good opportunities for us to trade in the coming couple of days, in the coming week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, as we get these levels and we get these breakouts happening and the momentum really starts to pick up. So I think, we've waited pretty patiently. Oh my goodness. We've waited pretty patiently for the election, for the volatility, for things to start happening. And I think this is our opportunity for the market to start to react and to start to show its support for some amount of certainty. And that's going to be key, right? We have to have certainty. So a contested election is what is going to drive these stocks lower and is what is going to drive more weakness on the Australian dollar, right? The Aussie yen, the Aussie dollar go down, pound Aussie, euro Aussie go up with that contested election. Stocks will go down, most likely. The contested election can't go on forever. It might go on for a couple of weeks. That's going to give us great opportunities in the currency market while we wait for the stock market to do something. Some of you might be asking, why don't we just buy a put? Let's buy a put on KSS. Let's buy a put on Bank of America. You can. I will not be joining you in that. I do not believe that that is going to be our best move. I think our best move is going to be buy the dips on stocks. For the time being, we'll be trading currencies, and we'll be killing it on the currency side of things if volatility spikes and stocks start to tank. I don't want to buy a put. I don't want to be bearish the stock market at all. I don't want to be that at all. I want to stay bullish and I want to buy those dips in stocks, and I'll trade the currencies towards stock market weakness all day long. But I'm not going to do it on the stock market for this kind of current period. I'm only looking for bullish stock trades right now that we can put bullish option spreads on. We can buy the stock. We can sell covered calls. We can do all that stuff. But as you guys know, and I'll just say this out there and say it all out loud, buying options is usually not our best bet. We want to be on the sell the option side, right? We want to be option sellers more than option buyers. Buying options is, all I have seen from people all year long is buying options, looking for a big move, and it just doesn't happen. So that's why we use the very specific strategy that we use in the group, which is we trade credit spreads, we turn those into stock ownership, and then we sell options on that stock ownership, and we just kill it. We just do great on those trades over and over and over again, and we'll continue to do that. Nice to see you, Craig. Glad you made it in. So that's a little bit of what we'll be doing. We'll stay bullish in the stock market. We're going to get bearish, most likely on Australian dollar. And then we should have some really great opportunities coming up. So what do you guys think? Questions? What do you think? Brian, good to see you, my man. Selling options guarantees big moves. Brian, it's kind of true, right? Whenever you're an option seller, that's when the market really takes off and goes. And you think, I should have actually bought an option that time. And then you buy an option, you go, I should have been selling options because the market's not going anywhere. You can't win them, you know? So that's why we tend to focus a little bit on the option selling side of things. Okay, questions, comments? You guys feel okay about that? Is everybody clear on what we're looking to have happen? Yes, Justin, I do. Justin, for you, so those in the trade group that are needing to get caught up on the option trading side of things, I have tons of videos, tons and tons of videos. So I will post those in a little bit more of an orderly format. We've been doing a lot of option trading webinars. And so I'll get some material ready for you and send it over, Justin. But we need to be trading stocks. We need to be trading options. We need to be doing all of it. There's so many great opportunities happening right now. Yeah, there goes the weekend for sure. Probably the full weekend, by the way. That'll be a solid one. Okay, guys, that's what I'm looking for at the moment. Yes, thank you, Lorraine. Yes, thank you. Good luck to America for sure. Hopefully this election goes well. There's been a lot of craziness happening. So hopefully things will just cruise along, which they kind of always do. I was actually talking to my father-in-law last night, and I said, what do you think about this election? You know, or do you feel up in arms? Do you feel comfortable about it? Where are you? And he goes, listen, if Trump gets into office, I'm going to eat breakfast, I might go see a movie, and I'm probably going to play some golf. And he said, if Biden goes into office, well, I think I'm going to eat breakfast, maybe go see a movie and play some golf. So I think that's kind of the path we should all be on for the moment. It's just one way or another, it's going to be, things are going to work out and they'll be fine. So thank you guys. Thanks everybody. Thanks for being on. Lovely to see you all. Thanks Fiona, Felipe, Ray, good to see you. Thank you guys. Nice to see everybody. Thanks for being on with us. And we have a lot of good stuff coming. So it's going to be exciting. Yes, thank you guys. Thanks everyone. Thanks for being on. Great to see everyone. Have a wonderful day. Good luck on everything, and I'll keep you guys updated and posted, and we'll send this recording out. Thanks guys. Take care everybody.